I went on a summer trip with my friends to Appalachia a few months ago. I was 30 and loved exploring new places. We rented a cabin near a lake to reconnect and escape from our busy lives. It seemed perfect at first, just a nice getaway in nature. The first few days were great. We walked around the lake, enjoyed the scenery, and laughed as we remembered old times. We felt free. But then came the second night. We sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows, when I heard this soft music. It sounded like a lullaby. I figured it was from a nearby festival, so we went to check it out. But when we walked into the trees, the music faded. The forest felt quiet, too quiet. The only sound was leaves rustling, making it feel off. The next day, I noticed something weird around the cabin. There were small footprints in the dirt. They looked like children's footprints, but we were the only ones there. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things. That night, I kept seeing shadows by the lake. They moved around, but when I stared, nothing was there. I felt eyes on me, and my heart raced. Still, I thought I was being silly. Then the dream started. I saw this girl in an old-fashioned dress. She had dark hair and looked sad. I couldn't see her face clearly. Each time I woke up, I felt drained, like I hadn't slept at all. I told my friends, but they just laughed. "You're just being silly," they said. Maybe they were right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the days went on, strange things kept happening. Random noises outside woke me up at night. I felt cold even when the air was warm. One night, I heard whispers outside. I thought it was one of my friends messing around. When I checked, though, there was no one there. My heart pounded as I stumbled back inside. I wanted to tell them, but something stopped me. The last night we spent there felt heavy. We sat in silence. I could see my friends glancing nervously out the window. I wished we had left right then. I wanted to say something, but the moment passed, and we stayed. In the end, we drove home feeling uneasy. What happened there still confuses me. Was it all in our heads? Or did we stumble upon something chilling? I kept wondering about it, questioning if we really saw what we thought we did. Then, just before we left, I caught a glimpse of the girl again. She stood at the edge of the trees, watching us. I thought I was imagining it again, but it felt too real. Even now, I wonder if we escaped. Or if we brought something back with us. I can't help but feel she still lingers, waiting in the shadows. I tried to shake off the memories of the trip, but they clung to me like a shadow. Back in my everyday life, I felt like something was watching me. I couldn't concentrate on work. I'd glance at the door, expecting to see that girl standing there, her sad eyes fixed on me. Then one night, I was home alone, trying to get some rest. The house was quiet, but that stillness felt wrong. I turned off the lights and crawled under the covers, hoping to forget. But sleep didn't come easily. Just as I started to drift off, I heard a soft melody wafting through the air. It was the lullaby again. My heart raced, and I sat up in bed, straining to hear. The music seemed to come from outside. I convinced myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew I had to investigate. I grabbed my phone for light and slipped on some shoes. I stepped out onto the porch, and the chill wrapped around me. The night was darker than I remembered. I walked down the path toward the backyard. The music faded in and out, drawing me closer to the trees lining the edge of my property. As I moved forward, the air grew heavier, the branches above whispering secrets. That's when I saw a flash of white between the trees. I hesitated. It looked like the girl, but how could it be? I was miles away from that cabin. Yet, I felt compelled to follow her. Each step felt like a pull, a thread connecting me to something beyond my understanding. I crept closer, but she vanished behind a thick trunk. I called out, "Hello? Are you there?" My voice broke the spell, and with it, the music stopped. An eerie silence filled the space around me. Just then, I heard a sound, like the crack of a twig breaking beneath a foot. I spun around, scanning the darkness. But it was empty. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Was I imagining it all? The memories buzzed in my head, making me doubt what I was experiencing now. Turning back to where I thought I had seen her, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. The girl stood there again, her dark hair flowing lightly in the wind. This time, her outline was clearer. She looked like she was reaching out, urging me to come closer. I wanted to approach, but fear rooted me in place. "What do you want?" I shouted into the dark. The night was silent again. Before I could move, my phone vibrated violently in my hand, its screen flashing with a text. It was from one of my friends. "Did you hear the music?" I'm freaked out. Just as I tried to process that, I felt a breeze rush past me, carrying a whisper, "Help me." I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Who was she? What did she mean? I realized I couldn't ignore this anymore. There was more to uncover about what had happened in Appalachia, and it was calling to me again. As the shadows deepened around me, I made a decision. I would find out who she was. I had to. And with that thought, I turned back toward the house, my heart pounding and the looming question echoing in my mind, was I the one who needed to help, or was I the one trapped? The next morning, I woke up feeling groggy but determined. I had to find answers. After breakfast, I called my friend Jamie. He was the one who had come with me to Appalachia and had shared in the strange experiences there. If anyone could help me sort through everything, it was him. "Hey, did you get my text last night?" he asked, his voice jittery. "Yeah, I did." "Did you hear the music too?" "Right after you left, I heard it." "It was that same lullaby," he said, sounding just as uneasy as I felt. I thought I was going crazy. "I'm not crazy," I replied, trying to reassure myself as much as him. "We need to talk. Can we meet?" An hour later, we sat on my porch. The sunlight was bright, but it felt like the shadows lingered in the corners of my mind. Jamie looked around, fidgeting with his coffee cup. "So, what do you think it means?" "I don't know. But I think it has something to do with that girl. I saw her last night." "What? Where?" Jamie's eyes widened. "In the backyard. She kept calling for help. I have to understand what happened. We need to go back." He winced. "You want to go back there? After everything?" "Yes. Maybe there's something we missed, something that can explain all of this." I felt the urgency pull at me again. What if she is still trapped somehow? After a moment of hesitation, he nodded slowly. "Fine, but I'm not going alone. Let us think this through. We should gather supplies and try to find out more about her before we head back." We spent the rest of the day doing just that. We searched online for any news or stories about the area, hoping to find a clue. As we scrounged through articles, one headline caught my eye: "Local girl missing for over a decade." My heart sank as I clicked on it. The photo that accompanied the article was unmistakable. The girl from my memories. The one who had cried for help. I read through snippets of the piece, zeroing in on the details. She had vanished near the same cabin where we had stayed. I felt chills run down my spine. The article explained that she was last seen playing in the woods, just before disappearing. Family and friends never stopped searching. Jamie looked over my shoulder. "You've got to be kidding me. That's her?" I nodded, feeling the weight of her story settle on my chest. "We have to find out what really happened." Before we could formulate a plan, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't a text this time, it was a notification. An old photo posed from a travel blog popped up in my feed. It had been taken at the cabin. My breath caught in my throat when I saw the caption, "The Lullaby of Appalachia, a haunting experience." Suddenly, I felt the atmosphere shift. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. There, in the comments section, was a reply to someone asking about strange occurrences. The user claimed to have seen the girl too. Then everything went dark. The lights in my house flickered rapidly and shut off completely. At that moment, the only thing I could think was, were we being drawn back there for a reason? The urgency grew. We had to move fast. We gathered our supplies the next morning, a mix of flashlights, water, and a camera to document anything unusual. Jamie seemed more anxious than I felt. I couldn't tell if it was fear or concern for me. Either way, I didn't care. All I could think about was that girl, the one who needed us. The drive back to Appalachia felt like it took forever. Every mile brought fresh memories of the woods, the cabin, and that haunting melody. Jamie drove quietly, glancing at me from time to time. I stared blankly out the window, trying to shake off an unsettling feeling creeping up my spine. When we finally arrived, the cabin loomed ahead like an old friend I hadn't seen in years. The sun hung low, casting an almost ethereal glow over everything. I took a breath, letting it out slowly. We need to start by locating where I saw her. Right, Jamie replied, his voice shaky. This place has a weird vibe. As we walked to the backyard, an uneasy silence enveloped us. The trees swayed gently, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. I squinted into the distance where the woods began, hoping to see something familiar. Every rustle made my heart race. "Do you think she's really here?" Jamie asked, breaking the quiet. "I have to believe it," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "She was calling for help. There has to be something we can find." We moved deeper into the woods, following the twisted path that led away from the cabin. I felt drawn to a clearing we hadn't explored last time. The sound of water gushing nearby pulled us in, and as we approached, the air felt colder, charged with a tension I couldn't explain. That's when I saw it. A small, old swing set that looked completely out of place. The paint was peeling, and the seats were worn. I approached cautiously, my heart thumping in my chest. "Do you see that?" I whispered, pointing. Jamie nodded, his eyes wide. On the swing hung an old, tattered doll. My stomach sank when I recognized it. The same doll I saw with the girl in my memory. "This is where she played," I realized out loud. "We have to look around here." We searched the surrounding area, kicking through leaves and poking around the trees. Then I spotted something half buried in the dirt. It looked like a charm necklace, the kind kids wear. I knelt down and picked it up, brushing off the dirt. My breath caught again. It had the initial M engraved on it. "M for her name, maybe?" I said, showing it to Jamie. Without warning, the wind picked up, rustling the branches above us. I glanced at the sky. Dark clouds were rolling in fast. Suddenly, a chilling scream sliced through the air. It wasn't just an echo, this was real. "Did you hear that?" Jamie shouted, eyes wide with fear. "Yeah, let us go," I said, adrenaline surging through me. Just as we turned to run back, something caught my eye through the trees. A flash of white. It darted away before I could focus. "What was that?" Jamie asked, terror tinging his voice. I think it was her." The weight of urgency pressed down on us. I felt it deep in my bones that we were about to find something. Maybe it was what we were looking for, or maybe something much worse. I pressed forward, pulling Jamie along with me. The forest seemed to close in around us, each shadow growing darker and more pronounced as the sun dipped below the horizon. "We should hurry," I urged, glancing back at Jamie, whose face was a mask of fear and determination. "Which way?" he asked, his breath coming in quick bursts. Over there. I pointed to where I had seen the flash of white. It led us deeper into the woods, past the familiar landmarks, trees I remembered, rocks we had climbed on as kids. The scream echoed again. This time, it felt closer, sharper. I froze, listening intently. It came from over there, I said, but doubt crept in. What if it wasn't her? What if we were chasing a ghost? Are you sure we should go back? Jamie hesitated, his eyes darting around nervously. We have to, I insisted, feeling more determined than scared at that moment. If she's in trouble, then the branches shifted to my right, and I caught movement. There she was, or at least, what I thought might be her. A glimmer of white like a dress or shroud. She was standing still, barely visible through the thicket, staring at us. Is that? Jamie stammered. Yeah. I think so, I said, my heart racing. I took a few cautious steps forward. Wait. Jamie pulled back my arm. What if it's a trap? I can't just leave her, I said, my voice firm. We need to see if she's okay. Then she took a step back, disappearing into the trees. No, wait. I shouted, taking off after her without thinking. Branches whipped at my face as I raced deeper into the woods, the ground uneven beneath my feet. I could barely hear Jamie's shouts behind me. As I pushed through the underbrush, I stumbled into a small clearing. It looked familiar, but everything felt different. Was this where the swing set was? I couldn't be sure anymore. Suddenly, the air grew thick with a sickly sweet smell, like overripe fruit, and I felt a wave of nausea roll over me. Where are you? I called out. Silence answered, stretching on like a taut string. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something glowing beneath the foliage. I stepped closer, and my breath caught again. A set of footprints, impossibly small, marked the damp earth. They were leading away from me, deeper into the unknown. Jamie! I screamed, feeling panic rise in my throat. You have to come see this. A moment later, he burst through the trees, panting hard. His gaze fell on the prints, and he froze. What is that? I don't know, but before I could finish, the screaming returned, louder, more frantic, wrapping around me like a vice. I clutched my ears, trying to drown it out. We can't stay here. We have to go back. But we can't just leave her. Jamie yelled, images of the girl trailing through his mind. My heart thundered as I grabbed his arm, pulling him back toward the path we had stumbled down. We'll find her. We have to regroup first. As we turned to leave, I felt something shift in the air behind me. I glanced back, the forest seemingly watching us as shadows flickered at the edge of the tree line. The tiny footprints seemed to disappear into thin air, and the feeling of being bathed in cold eyes sent chills scurrying down my spine. Let us move. I thrust forward, urging Jamie to follow. An unseen force seemed to push us out of the clearing and back toward the cabin, a weight pressing down on my chest. Whatever lurked in those woods wasn't finished with us yet. With every step, the unease grew. I could still hear the lingering echo of that haunting scream. And now I was sure of one thing: if we wanted to find her, we had to face whatever was haunting these woods. It was just a matter of time before it would come for us again. As we plunged deeper into the trees, the chill in the air intensified, wrapping around us like a cold shroud. My thoughts raced, each beat of my heart echoing with the sound of the distant screams. I couldn't shake the feeling that something unseen followed us, lurking just out of sight. Jamie, we need to hurry, I urged again, glancing at his pale face. He nodded, tightening his grip on my arm. We retraced our steps, breaking through the thick underbrush until we reached the narrow path we had come from. With every step, I hoped we'd find something that would make sense of the chaos. I was grasping for answers but knew we were only met with uncertainty. The shadows seemed deeper here, the trees more twisted, as if they were shifting and watching. "Maybe we should consider calling for help," Jamie suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. "What? And alert anyone around?" "No way," I shot back, my voice sharp. I was afraid of what lurking eyes might overhear us. Without the screaming, it was too quiet now, too peaceful. Suddenly, I caught sight of movement to my left. I spun around, my chest tightening. "Did you see that?" "What?" Jamie asked, his eyes wide, scanning our surroundings. "There a shadow." My voice trembled. I took a cautious step toward the trees. There it was again, a flicker of movement. It was like something darting behind a large oak. My instincts screamed at me to run, but curiosity drew me forward. "I think there's something over here." "Are you crazy? We shouldn't be splitting up," Jamie shouted, panic rising in his voice. "I'm not splitting up." I snapped back, hating that I sounded so desperate. "Just stay close." I moved cautiously, staying low behind the thick trunk of a tree, my heart racing. The ration of my fear was balancing on a knot of curiosity. As I peered around the corner, I was hit by another sickly sweet smell, stronger this time. I glanced down and noticed the same tiny footprints appearing again, seemingly leading right to me. My instinct screamed danger, but I couldn't hold back. "Look!" I called, gesturing to Jamie, whose feet shuffled nervously. "They lead this way." "I don't want to follow them," he said quietly. "Neither do I." But there was an unspoken truth in my voice: we had to. The moment we stepped onto the trail marked by those tiny prints, the air thickened again. It felt as if the forest itself held its breath. And just like that, the scream returned. It echoed closer than before, rising like a crescendo. My heart pounded as the hair on my neck stood up. "Change of plans," I said, my voice tense. "We need to get back to the cabin, now." But as we turned, the woods around us shifted. The path blurred as if it were reorienting itself, and I could sense the urgency mounting. It was as if we were caught in a web, and the very forest conspired to keep us trapped. "Wait, where's the path?" Jamie's face paled further as he looked around. The trees seemed to loom larger and closer. "Just follow me, and whatever happens, keep moving." Then, from behind us, came a sound that wasn't just a cry but a hint of laughter, a young girl's laughter laced with something that felt wrong. I turned to Jamie, our eyes meeting in panic. We had to decide: run or confront whatever lay ahead. Before I could say anything, Jamie pushed past me. "We can't leave her." Then everything went dark as the shadows consumed us. The darkness swallowed us whole. I stumbled, grasping at the air as panic surged. When the shadows receded, we found ourselves in a small clearing, the moonlight casting an eerie glow on the surrounding trees. "Jamie!" I called, my voice shaky. I turned around, looking for him, but the clearing felt empty. I felt my heart clench with fear. "Where are you?" "I'm here," he replied from behind me, his voice trembling. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived as I noticed something more disturbing. The laughter was louder now, as if it circled around us. "Stay close," I shouted, grabbing his arm. The air was thick with an unnatural silence that pressed against my skin. It was as though the very forest was a living entity, holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. We moved cautiously toward the edge of the clearing, the trees looming ominously. I scanned the area, searching for any sign of the girl or whatever had laughed moments ago. My pulse raced. "We should get back to the path," I insisted, but my voice came out weak. "What if she's in trouble?" Jamie said, his face pale and eyes wide. Just then, the laughter shifted, turning into a horrid shriek that echoed through the trees. I flinched, a chill running down my spine. "We can't help her if we get lost." I led Jamie further into the woods, each step heavy with dread. The shadows seemed to pulse around us, bending and twisting in ways that warped my sense of direction. We passed twisted roots that snagged at our shoes, and I had to fight the urge to look back. But just then, I spotted something on the ground, a torn piece of fabric caught on a branch. I crouched down, instinctively reaching for it. It was delicate and worn, like a part of a child's dress. "This is from her," I said, holding it up for Jamie to see. He took a step back, fear etched on his face. "What if it's a trap? We shouldn't be here. That's why we need to go," I replied, stuffing the fabric into my pocket. "We can't just leave her in danger." But as we turned to leave, a sudden rustle echoed close by, breaking the heavy silence. My heart leaped into my throat. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Jamie whispered, wide-eyed. Before I could urge him forward, a flash of movement darted between the trees. Something small and fast flickered in and out of view, just beyond the shadows. "Is that?" I hesitated, my breath catching. I had to know. "Follow me." We edged closer, fighting the freezing dread gripping my stomach. The shadows pulsed again, and I caught a glimpse, a pair of eyes glinting in the dark, reflecting the moonlight. Just as I was about to call out, the laughter erupted again, but this time it cut off suddenly. A stillness fell, a suffocating silence that made every hair on my body stand on end. "Let us get out of here," Jamie urged, his voice barely above a whisper. But before we could take a step, the eyes vanished, and in their place, a figure emerged, small, almost childlike, with wild hair and a grin that sent chills down my spine. "What do you want?" I stammered, my voice trembling as I tried to stand my ground. "Come play with us." The figure called, but the sincerity in its voice felt twisted. That was when I knew we were in deeper trouble than I had ever imagined. My heart hammered in my chest as I faced the figure. Its wide grin felt wrong, almost mocking in the moonlight. "No, we can't play," I said, trying to be firm, not wanting to provoke whatever was in front of us. "Why not?" It pouted, tilting its head. The shadows danced along its form, creating a flickering outline that made it hard to pin down the details. "It'll be fun. There are so many games." Just then, Jamie stepped back again, eyes darting to the trees as if he sensed something lurking just beyond our view. "I don't think we should be here," he said, his voice breaking. "Then leave." The figure snapped, and for a moment, I caught a flash of something dangerous behind its innocent facade. "No, wait," I said, desperate to stall. "Where's the girl?" The figure's smile faltered, and something dark flickered in its eyes. "She's playing a very special game," it replied, but the tone was ominous. "Do you want to play too? It will be better than anything you can imagine." I felt the panic rising again. "No. We're looking for her. We have to find her." Little breathless giggles echoed from somewhere in the shadows, chilling me. It was like a chorus of taunts, and I could feel the pressure of the unseen crowd closing in around us. "Find her? But she's right here." The figure spun around, waving its arms theatrically. In that moment of distraction, I took advantage. "Jamie, we can't stay." I grabbed his arm and pulled, urging him back. "I don't want to play. We want to leave." But just as we turned to run, laughter erupted once more, louder and more chaotic. The strange figure blocked our path, and behind it, more figures began to emerge from the shadows, each one more grotesque than the last. They were like distorted children, all sharp teeth and wild hair, their eyes glimmering with a feverish light. "We can play forever," they chorused. The air grew thick and suffocating. I glanced back at Jamie, who was frozen in terror, and suddenly I understood we wouldn't escape easily. They were forming a barrier, a twisted circle between us and the hope of getting back to the path. "Run!" I shouted, pulling Jamie with me, but it felt like a wall of energy was holding us in place. We stumbled, our feet caught in the underbrush as they advanced, laughter echoing in a haunting melody that twisted my stomach. It felt like seconds turned to hours as we pushed through the brush, trying to break free. The laughter turned into taunts, resonating in the dark, "You can't leave. It's too late." Desperation surged inside me, fueling every ounce of strength I had. I had to find a way out. "We need to find something, anything," I yelled to Jamie as our way grew more perilous. But just as we broke free of the trees, the ground shifted beneath me. I slipped, falling into a shallow ravine, the darkness consuming me. "Jamie!" I called out, the sound echoing back in a cruel mockery. Then everything went dark again. I landed hard on the cold, damp earth, the breath knocked from my lungs. It took me a moment to gather myself, my heart still racing with fear. "Jamie!" I shouted again, but my voice sounded small and lost. The darkness enveloped me like a heavy blanket, oppressive and thick. I fumbled around, trying to get my bearings, my hands brushing against jagged stones and damp leaves. It wasn't just the cold that chilled me, it was the silence that filled the space around me, a silence that felt far too inviting for the chaos I had just escaped. Suddenly, I heard a rustling above, followed by a faint whisper. "Down here, come play." It curled around my thoughts like smoke, both enticing and terrifying at the same time. I shivered as I recognized the voice. It sounded like the figure from before, echoing through the ravine. I pushed myself to stand, but my legs wobbled like a newborn foal. I let out a breath, trying to convince myself that fear wouldn't keep me down. I had to find Jamie. He wouldn't just leave me. He couldn't, Jamie. I yelled again, this time louder, echoing against the walls of the ravine. I strained my ears for a response, but only silence greeted me. Panic clawed at my throat. As my eyes adjusted to the low light, I noticed a glimmer beneath a pile of leaves. I shuffled closer, my heart pounding in sync with the shadows flitting around me. I pulled back the foliage to reveal a small object. It was a tarnished silver locket. I opened it slowly, warmth spreading through me as I recognized the tiny portrait within. It was the girl we had been searching for, her eyes bright and carefree. But as I looked closer, I felt a twist in my stomach. Her smile seemed too wide, almost predatory. I jumped back, almost dropping the locket. The whispers ramped up in intensity, slithering through the darkness. "She's playing, don't you want to play?" They were closing in, and I could feel a presence watching me, lurking just out of sight. "I have to find Jamie," I murmured to myself, clutching the locket tightly. A surge of determination pushed me forward. I needed to escape, but there was only one way out through the narrow edges of the ravine. With a deep breath, I made my way toward the light seeping from above, skirting around the boulders that lined the ravine. Each step felt heavier than the last as the shadows shifted, teasing me with the promise of what lay ahead. Just then, a sharp cry pierced the silence, a voice I recognized instantly. "Help!" It was Jamie. "Jamie?" I called out, urgency flooding my veins. "Where are you?" The panic in his voice was unmistakable, and I quickly scrambled toward the sound, my heart racing. "I'm over here," he shouted, desperation making his tone tremble. But the laughter returned, twirling around me, wrapping me in dread. I bolted through the last of the darkness, adrenaline skyrocketing, when something twisted behind me. An unseen hand gripped my ankle, pulling me down into the shadows once more. I screamed, struggling against whatever it was, desperately trying to reach the light above. And then, through the chaos, I caught a glimpse of a grotesque face, one of the figures from before, its wide grin that promised endless games. Then everything went dark again. I jolted awake, gasping for breath. My surroundings were bright, sunlight streaming through the gaps in the canopy above. It took a moment for my mind to clear, the remnants of the nightmare still fresh. I was lying on the forest floor, damp with early morning dew. "Jamie!" I called out instinctively, my voice raw. I sat up, scanning the area, but it was empty. My heart began to race, panic threatening to engulf me once more. Had I really lost him? The shadows from my dream loomed large, and I knew that whatever happened in this place, it didn't care for boundaries. I stood, my body stiff and aching, and stumbled deeper into the forest, hoping that I'd find him. The silence seemed amplified here, each crack of a twig ringing like a bell in my ears. I felt exposed, vulnerable, just like prey being watched in the dark. As I moved cautiously forward, I saw something glinting in the grass. It was Jamie's flashlight. Relief surged within me, but as I picked it up, dread settled in the pit of my stomach. "Jamie!" I shouted again, a mix of fear and desperation spilling over. My own voice echoed back mockingly, but there was no response. Pushing further, I found signs of him: a snapped branch and a scuffed shoe print in the mud. My heart raced, he was close. But as I followed the trail, something stopped me. The air shifted, an energy crackling, and a familiar, haunting lullaby drifted through the trees. I froze, every survival instinct flaring up. Should I follow it? The urge pulled me in like a moth to flame. The others would be close behind me, waiting. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my mind. Focus on Jamie, not the lullaby. "Jamie! I'm coming!" I shouted, forcing my feet to move, deeper into the heart of the woods. Every step felt heavier, anxiety wrapping itself around me, binding me to the ground. But still, I pressed on, ignoring the whispers that brushed past my ears. The path narrowed, and soon there were trees all around, blocking any view of the sky. The light dimmed, a haunting twilight settling low. But then, cutting through the shadows, I heard it again: the chilling laughter, echoing in distorted waves. My instincts screamed to turn back, but I couldn't leave him. "Jamie!" I yelled again, but the only answer was a distant echo of laughter, growing louder, surrounding me. It was intoxicating, dancing in my mind, calling me to join some twisted game that I didn't intend to play. As I continued, a fleeting glimpse of white caught my eye. I spun around, my heart racing. There she was, the girl, standing just ahead, her figure ethereal and fragile in the dim light. "Help me," she whispered, her eyes wide and pleading. But there was something unsettling behind that innocence. Another laugh trailed behind, like a chorus of children. "It's a game," it whispered, the tone twisting and mocking. Every instinct inside me screamed to run, but I stepped forward. "Where's Jamie?" I demanded, desperately searching her face for something genuine, something that resembled humanity. She pointed to a thick cluster of trees that seemed to pulse lightly, a depth of darkness lurking within. "In there," she said softly, almost drifting away as her voice slipped into the wind. "Jamie!" I shouted again, my desperation becoming a scream now. Without waiting for a response, I charged ahead, the shadows thickening around me. The laughter echoed, turning sinister, as if it were alive and moving with me, whispering taunts that twisted reality itself. Finally, I reached the thicket, pushing through the tangled underbrush, heart pounding in my chest. The shadows shifted, revealing what had felt like a part of the forest itself, a small clearing. And there, crumpled on the ground, was Jamie. "Jamie!" I rushed to him, shaking his shoulder. He blinked up at me, confusion and fear swimming in his eyes. "What happened?" he asked, breathless. "I thought I lost you," I said, relief flooding through me. "We have to go. We're not safe here." But the laughter grew louder as the shadows deepened, pressing in from all sides. The space around us felt alive, pulsating like a beast. Hungry for something, and that fear gripped my heart tight. Suddenly, the girl appeared on the opposite edge of the clearing. "I'm waiting." She leered and stepped closer, her smile taking on a cruel edge. "We can all play together." Just ignore her," Jamie shouted, scrambling to his feet, fear knitting together as he realized the situation. We turned back toward the way we'd come, but ahead of us, blurred shadows began to form, encircling the clearing and cutting off our path. The laughter twisted into a shriek, drowning out all rational thought. "Run!" I shouted, taking Jamie's hand as we tore away in the opposite direction. The darkness surged behind us, the brush cracking under the weight of something eager to find us, but we pushed harder. In our panic, we darted through trees we didn't recognize. Each turn felt wrong, like the forest was playing games with us. But then, to my relief, a soft glow peeked through the branches ahead. "Home!" I gasped, both exhilaration and terror clashing. We burst through fraying branches into a wide clearing. The cabin slouched before us, dim at first but glowing brighter the closer we drew. "This way," Jamie urged, leading us forward. But as we raced towards the cabin, I caught a glimpse of the girl again, still watching from the shadows, a slope of laughter trailing behind her. We made it inside, slamming the door behind us. Panting, I glanced around. There was no sign of the world outside, just walls and a heavy silence that settled like a fog. Were we safe? What the hell was that? Jamie gasped, trying to catch his breath. "I don't know," I replied, still breathless. Something is wrong here." We moved to the windows, peering out into the gathering dusk. The forest lay still, but the weight of eyes seemed to linger on my neck, watching us. "We need to leave now," Jamie said, pacing, but the door suddenly rattled violently as if something wanted in. The sound of that laughter grew, curling around us like a thick fog, and a chill washed over me. "We can't let them in," I whispered, clutching Jamie's arm. As the world outside darkened like a veil, we locked the door, but I knew it would only be a matter of time before the shadows returned, and the game they played was changing. I wanted to believe we had escaped, but as I looked back out into the woods, a creeping doubt settled in. The laughter became a part of our reality, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had tormented us wasn't finished yet. We had made it back, yes, but had we truly escaped? I moved to the window, wishing I could see the girl again, wanting to understand her tale, but more than that, I felt a stirring, a longing for answers that would never come. We had survived, but the questions remained: was it supernatural or merely the echo of our own fears? And as the girl's laughter echoed around us, I realized that even though we were back, her game was far from over.